Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Bias Report for the week of July 29th, 2019. I'm your host, Paul, here with you, as always, to bring you the best and the worst of American media bias. Should be a pretty good show for you guys. Got some good juicy nuggets from the left and from the right. I mean, what else is new, right? And yeah, I'm glad you could be here. I will be right back after the break with the weekly rundown. Be right back. And we're back. Welcome to the Weekly Rundown, the segment where I take different news headlines from all across the political spectrum, and I read into them with absolutely zero fact-checking or research whatsoever. This week, we are going to start on the right side of the aisle. From Fox News, Trump tears into con man Sharpton, says Reverend Al hates whites and cops, as tensions over Baltimore boil. Yes, I am sure that Al Sharpton hates whites and cops. That's how he got to be in his position, right? Also, I'm not even sure why Donald Trump would even say this. It's not like it appeals to his base or anything. Up next from Fox News, Limbaugh backs Trump on Baltimore, calls out Dems for inner city woes. Great, the Dems are to blame for the inner city problems of Baltimore. Funny, I always thought that it was over a century of systemic racism that had something to do with that. I'm glad to hear that it's actually the Dems. Not surprising. Up next from the Patriot Post, Obama derailed the Democrat Party. I just picked this one because it has a hilarious picture on their website. It's a picture of Obama as a hobo with hat and everything, standing next to a flipped-over train. Also, unlike other stories on the Patriot Post's website, this one has a little thumbnail of the author, who happens to be black. That way, you can be sure that his opinions are legit. Up next, from the American Thinker. Feminism is working overtime to destroy film. Freaking lefty feminists are forcing their way into Hollywood to destroy one of the last pure and untainted industries. Disgusting. Well, I hope you guys all enjoyed movies while they lasted. Too bad the feminists are trying to destroy them. And from Breitbart, 5 shot dead in Democrat-controlled Baltimore. All right, reconfirming what I learned earlier. The Dems are having people shot in Baltimore now. That would never happen if the GOP was in control, right? That swamp would have been drained a long time ago by now. All right, that's all from the right. Let's head over to the left. From CNN, Trump keeps up fight with black community by launching feud with Sharpton. Wait a minute, I don't know. Fox News said that Sharpton hated white people and cops, but according to CNN, it was all on Trump for keeping up this feud. Okay, and the truth comes to light. Up next from MSNBC, educator explains how to defeat President Trump in 2020. Okay, here we go. How to take down that bad man. From an educator. Because, they have practical experience in such things? Oh well, we can just clutch at whatever straws there are, right? Up next, from the Huffington Post. September 11th Victim Compensation Fund signed into law after years of shameful delay. I think this one's funny because, who do you think signed it into law? I think that would have to be the president, right? Apparently, the Huffington Post can't even bring themselves to put Trump's name in a headline that they remotely see as positive. Up next from Alternet. This old video shows how far Trump has gone from Reagan's Republican Party. I've got an idea. Let's take one Republican that we can kind of stomach and show how different the bad man is from him. That'll show them. That'll whip these Republicans into shape. And from Jacobin, privately owned scooter companies don't have a future. This from author Paris Marx, clearly a very open-minded person with that pen name. And yes, clearly, people shouldn't be allowed to start businesses or profit from them, am I right? Once again, Jacobin is really on the right track. Alright guys, that wraps up the left and the right. Let's head over to the other category. From the Huffington Post. Suspect's loud fart helps police sniff out his hiding place. Great, so now the media is biased against gaseous people too? God forbid that the cops ever corner me after Chipotle Day. Up next from UPI. Maryland couple's itchy hands lead to $50,000 jackpot. So, as you know, I don't do any fact-checking or research on this part of the show, but I really wish I could right now. I'm just wondering how itchy hands leads to a $50,000 jackpot. My palms are itching right now. Up next from the Huffington Post. Tourists going gaga for Japanese museum dedicated to poop. If there was ever a missed opportunity to use the phrase holy crap, this one's up on the list. Up next from the Huffington Post. Man arrested in Spain had cocaine under toupee. Police. Well, okay, cocaine may be a hell of a drug according to Rick James, but clearly it doesn't help with critical thinking skills. And finally, from the Huffington Post, bear attempts to steal trash dumpster from Colorado pot dispensary. Here we go again. Wild bears on the loose again. Ever notice how they never bothered to get the bear's side of the story? Maybe he worked at the dispensary. Once again, it's hashtag bear bias at its worst, people. Alright guys, that wraps up the weekly rundown. I will be right back with the main story after this quick break. Be right back. And we're back. So I spend a lot of time on this podcast talking about the so-called news from major American media outlets, as well as smaller and more polarizing but also fun ones. I talk about a lot of different headlines, make fun of them, call out their bias, and generally revel in their outrageous take on the news. Sure, it may be outrageous many times, but it is still the news, right? Stuff that I need to know. Vital information that I surely couldn't do without in my life, right? If you haven't noticed by listening to any episodes thus far, that's sarcasm. It's kinda my shtick. In reality, it seems that almost none of the so-called news that I see all week is really all that important to me as an individual. So for this week's main story, I'm going to go down the front pages of my two favorite whipping posts, Fox News and CNN, and see just how important all of the stories are, how they may be of immediate and dire importance to me as an individual, based on the way they're portrayed. So I started the weekly rundown this week on the right, so for this story I'll start on the left. To CNN. At the very top of the page in bright red capital letters. Breaking! Senate passes massive budget deal that lifts the debt ceiling. So this must be massively important to me, right? The debt ceiling, that sounds official. Well, seeing as it's already in the trillions, and I really don't have the firmest grasp on why it really matters to me, Paul, I probably could have done without this information. Up next, also in bright red capitalized letters at the top of the CNN website. Justice Department won't prosecute James Comey over handling of FBI memos. Holy crap, really? I'd better call my boss and let them know I'll be late today. Something new happened in the James Comey thingy. I remember that name from months ago. Up next, winners and losers from the second night of the CNN debate. Definitely need to know this one. I'll now have a much clearer grasp on the 217 people running against Donald Trump next year. I don't know what I would have done without this information this early in the race. Up next, man claims he saw Bigfoot, fires a gun. See, okay, so I did need to know this one. I may need to protect myself from the Squatches. Plus, it really helps enforce my view of CNN as a pillar of journalism. Okay, so I didn't have too much luck there with CNN. On vital information for my day-to-day life. Let's give Fox News a try, huh? Governor Hogan sees silver lining in Trump-Cummings feud. Cool. I don't know what any of that means, really. Must be super important, though. Up next, gunshots fired in alleged Bigfoot encounter. Okay, so clearly Fox and CNN are in the same league here. And as I said earlier, I'll be erecting my anti-squatch fence very soon. Up next, U.S. official confirms role in death of Osama bin Laden's son. All right, but we already got his dad, right? We did? Cool. All right, I'm good with that. Not sure how this is going to help affect the weather here at the house today. Up next, Felicity Huffman talks motherhood as Eva Longoria says she coped with college scandal with grace. Rich people complimenting other rich people about something that never had anything to do with me in the first place. Probably could have done without that one in my life today as well. Okay, well, honestly, that's about the best I could do. Going up and down the front pages of these two news leaders, I really couldn't find one single headline that would clearly impact my life directly in the foreseeable future, outside of the Sasquatch, of course. It's almost as if they're both in the business whose only real objective is profit, not journalistic integrity. I think that what this little experiment really shows is that while it is good to stay up to date on the goings-on in our country and the world, it can also be very easy to get sucked into the 24-hour sensational news cycle and forget that, at the end of the day, it's not going to change your life all that much. A side note, I've noticed, honestly, that I get way more useful information for my life from my local morning news show. They tell me what the weather will be like today, where I am today. They tell me about any traffic issues I might like to avoid if I'm heading out to work. Any cool new things or deals going on around me. Why, just this morning, they reminded me that the Denver Broncos' first preseason game is tonight, which feels kind of strange to me. It feels like the 4th of July just happened. And even though they probably won't play any starters, I'm still going to watch it. All thanks to my local news. So I guess the moral of the story is, take these big national media outlets in moderation. If you don't, the way it's going to affect you the most in your life is probably raise your blood pressure to unhealthy levels. Okay, that's it for today, guys. Thanks for tuning in. If you have any friends or family who you think might like The Bias Report, tell them they can check me out on Twitter at @bias_report, on Facebook at The Bias Report, on my website, thebiasreport.com, or subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. And again, if anyone has any comments, story ideas, or whatever, send me an email, thebiasreport@mail.com. That's thebiasreport@mail.com. I'll be back next week with a brand new show for you. And until then, remember to watch less news. Bye-bye.